Now, somebody I've been looking forward to hearing share with us right now, Jim Mitchell. Jim, glad to see you, my friend.
I just got off my cell phone with Janet Napolitano at Homeland Security. I assured her that there are no right-wing extremists here today. All I see when I look out on this magnificent group are a bunch of loyal Americans who love their country and who want to see us continue to spell America with a C and not with a K. America, have you had enough change yet? In the past 6 months, government has acquired control of the major banks in the United States through $1 trillion bailout, money forced on them, and some are trying to give it back and the government won't let them. Government has committed another $1 trillion to be spent by Congress to stimulate the economy. Government has committed to spend another $500 billion on an omnibus spending package. Government has acquired effective ownership of 2 of the 3 American automakers. Government wants $3.5 trillion to spend next year, which will increase the national debt by another $1.75 trillion. The Federal Reserve has put the icing on this cake by printing another $1 trillion to use to buy toxic assets from the financial institutions. In just 6 months, government has committed to increase the national debt, which was $10 trillion, by almost $4 trillion, which is 40% increase, and it has printed another $1 trillion. The federal government has committed to print and borrow $5 trillion in just 6 months. How much is $1 trillion? $1 trillion is $3,333 for every man, woman, and child in the United States of America. For a family of 4, $5 trillion is $66,000 for every family of 4 in the United States. Where is this money coming from? It's coming from you. And I mean, it's coming from all Americans. I don't care what your income level is. It's coming from higher taxes. It's coming from borrowing money that would otherwise be available for private sector borrowing. And they're printing money, which will steal from you silently through runaway inflation. That giant sucking sound you hear is money being sucked out of the private sector, where it would be invested or spent to the benefit of literally hundreds of thousands of private businesses, creating hundreds of thousands of permanent jobs, and instead is being sucked into the hands of 545 people in Washington, D.C., who will use it to create a short-term bubble and no permanent jobs. America is being converted from a free enterprise economy controlled by the economic decisions of 75 million American families into a new socialist order, where the economy is controlled by the decisions of some 550 people in Washington, D.C. Instead of you deciding who will be the winners and losers. Government is going to decide who will be the winners and losers. The high priests of the new socialist order have already started deciding who will be hired, who will be fired, and how much money they will make. And while you have heard them complain about the bonuses to the AIG employees, which the indispensable Tim Geithner and the omniscient Senator Chris Dodd had already approved, they haven't said a word about the $26 million that Democrat donor Jamie Gorelick took out of Fannie Mae for helping to cook the books and run it into the ground. That, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the main problems with the socialist government. They tend to make their decisions for political reasons and not for economic reasons. And it doesn't matter whether you are an auto worker or a company president or a doctor or a lawyer. Sooner or later, you will find that none of you are immune from a socialist government deciding who is making too much money until you see the cars that Congress is designing for you. They're called congressionally redesigned automobiles for the people, otherwise known by their government acronym, CRAP. Is this new socialist order going to work? The two biggest communist countries in the history of the world, the Russians and the Chinese, are telling us no. Alexander Putin, former KGB official, is telling us, America, don't do this. We tried it and it didn't work. Why is it that Obama and Congress are getting away with these profound changes in our way of life? Because of three lies. Because of three lies which the American people have been told. The first lie. The first lie is that the current economic downturn was caused by the Bush tax cuts, or deregulation, or the failure of the free markets. The current economic downturn was not caused by the Bush tax cuts, or the failure of the markets, or deregulation. It was caused by government and by government regulations. It was the government and the banks, it was the government and its regulations which ordered Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and the nation's banks to loan more money to subprime borrowers. It was government regulation that required the banks to value the underlying financial instruments at zero, even though 90% of the loans were still performing. This put the banks below their reserve requirements for lending money, dried up sources of credit, and started a downward spiral of business failure, more job loss, and more mortgage default. The Bush tax cuts did not force the banks to loan more money to subprime borrowers. Deregulation did not force the banks to loan more money to subprime borrowers. The free market didn't force the banks to loan more money to subprime borrowers. It was the government and government regulations and government interference that forced the banks to loan more money to subprime borrowers. Do we really want more government control of the economy? And here's the second lie they've told the American people. The second lie is that we're only going to increase taxes on the